Okay, so the reason we're here today and Zooming exclusively is because all the campuses of New River are closed for weather. And I didn't want us to get behind. So I figured this is a perfect opportunity to Zoom from home. Let's see where to start first. Suppose, well, you obviously know how to get in and find the Zoom connection, so that's not a problem. Perhaps we ought to start with the syllabus, just take an overview of the syllabus because it leads off in several different directions, and that'll be a good place. So what I'm going to do first is, let's see, I'm going to pin mine and share the syllabus. Do you have a copy of the syllabus with you?
I can pull one up.
Okay, well, I'm going to share one. So you don't need a hard copy in front of you unless you just want one.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. All right, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, let me stretch it a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. Now you can, on your end, I'll show you, actually I'll go to the back of the syllabus and I have several appendices. Let's see. This one describes, are you familiar, have you used Zoom before? That's a better question.
I have not.
Okay. If you want to resize your screen so you can see more of one shared screen and less of the instructor, or if you want to see the instructor only rather than everybody else in the class, you can go to the, usually in the upper right hand corner, there's a selection for, you can show the speaker only, or you can show the gallery, and you can resize the shared screen and any of the participants so you can suit yourself. And that's what this side-by-side mode is all about. If you go to, let's see, here we go. If you go to view options, then you can pick side-by-side mode. And then you're able to just click and drag the divider and make one side bigger or smaller. Oh, they show it right here. There's the divider that will resize the screens. They also give you instructions on how to set it up so that it'll be the same the next time you zoom in. It will remember your selections, your settings. Here it is, automatically entering side by side. So I'll let you play with that while we go through the rest of the syllabus. As long as you can see everything you want. The only reason you might want to increase the size of the instructor or my screen is that I use a whiteboard when I'm teaching class this way. And some of the stuff I write up here, you may not be able to see too well in the live Zooming. However, I do take the recordings, the Zoom recordings, and I splice them together in such a way that half the screen is the shared side and half the screen is me with my whiteboard. So on the recorded version, I already have resized the screens so that you can see what's going on my whiteboard, as well as what's shared. But resizing for now is just your convenience at the time we're in class. Okay, so let's see, we'll be sure we're in the right class, CHEM100, and this is the CRN. Did you sign up for the face-to-face?
I think so.
Okay. Because originally we had CHEM100 face-to-face / Zoom, and you could choose either one. And then I had a talk with the dean, and we decided that since there were so few students in either one of them, we combine the web-based only with this one and give students the option of attending any way they want. 3 options. I think I sent an email to that effect, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just checking to be sure that that the email actually ended up at a student's address. Okay, so here's my contact information. That's my office phone. If you call that, you're probably not going to get me unless I happen to be sitting there. But it will take a voicemail and convert it into an audio file and send it to my email address. So I'll get it pretty quick. Or you can contact me on my cell phone. The best way to get an answer there is to text. Then if I'm driving or I'm doing something else, I don't have to answer it right away, but I can return your call pretty quick. Email address, obviously. There's my office on the Raleigh campus, 129. If you come in the back door from the parking lot and just walk straight up the hall and look on your right, all the way up the hall, you'll eventually run into R129. I'm on the main hall. These are my office hours. Originally, my office hours were only going to be in person, and then I would Zoom any meetings that a student wanted to. But under the circumstances and the way the weather is shaping up this semester, I'm going to Zoom all of my office hours. And you can either show up in person, which is fine, or you can Zoom in, and I should be there during these times. If I'm not there, that means I got called away, it's an emergency. And if you don't see somebody there when you try to Zoom in, that means I'm not there. Okay, let's see, textbook. Okay, have you purchased Cengage Unlimited yet?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then now all you need to do is register from within Brightspace. Most students, well, maybe a third of the students have done it by the time the semester starts, but you still got time if you haven't registered already, and I'll show you where to do that inside Brightspace. Do you have any experience with Brightspace?
I do.
Oh, good.
I used it for my senior year.
Oh, I had heard that the public schools used Brightspace. That's good. I mean, you're probably far ahead of me. I just got exposed to it over the winter break.
It's pretty basic.
Yeah, it looks a lot different than Blackboard, and I like Blackboard for its clean format. But as I'm using Brightspace more and more, I learn where to find stuff. That's really the key.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then of course, from the student standpoint, there are certain things about your course that can be organized differently by each instructor. So you'll see some variability there once we get into it. Okay, if you want a hard copy, you can get a loaner from Cengage, or you can just buy a used copy for a few dollars. I always like a hard copy, a book in my hand, but the electronic book is included with Brightspace Unlimited. Cengage Unlimited, and I'll show you where that connects from within Brightspace, and you can get to the textbook there. And the nice thing about the electronic textbook is you can search it. Okay, other materials, you'll need a calculator if you don't already have one. And I put all these functions in here that you're going to need, but if you buy a calculator that says scientific on the package, it will have everything you need. And I assume you're you're zooming in on probably a laptop.
I am.
Okay. You can zoom in on your phone, your smartphone also. And a desktop. I'm using a desktop right now with a webcam. Let's see, other materials that you might need. If we were face-to-face, I would have copies of the PowerPoint printed out that I hand out in class. But everything that I would normally hand out in class is in the learning management system. It's in Brightspace. And I'll show you what all that stuff is once we get there. If I can just not be too long-winded. This stuff is useful information, but it's not critical for doing the course right now. This is just a course outline. This is probably more important, procedures for evaluation. Regular exams, we will have those, and I'll show you those in the schedule. If you show up face-to-face, you can take a paper exam. If you take the exam online, then you're going to have use Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor. Those are our proctoring software solutions. And we'll go into those in more detail in a minute. You just need to have a reliable internet connection, a laptop with a camera, or a webcam on your desktop. At this point, I've got scheduled a final exam. So we'll have chapter exams. Actually, some have more than one chapters and some have only one chapter. And I'll point those out when we get to the schedule. This references the homework. The homework is, that's the reason I have my students buy Cengage Unlimited. It gives you the access to the homework in Cengage. And if you're taking any other courses where the textbook is a Cengage product, then you only have to buy Cengage Unlimited once, and you get all their textbooks. I don't know if you're taking any other courses that use that, but it's a benefit if you do. You have to create, when you go into the bookstore, you have to use your New River email account, and for Cengage also. If you do that, then there are fewer problems. I've had students use personal email accounts, and it just really gums up the works. Because Cengage recognizes you as a user, a bona fide user in the course, based upon your New River email account. Let's see. I'll talk about these in more detail in a few minutes. Let's see. Attendance is variable. So if you show up in person or on Zoom, I'll mark you down on the roster as attending. If you do only web, then I have to sort of modify my approach, and if you complete your assignments on time, I count you as present up to that point. And the only reason I have to keep track of all this stuff is, well, actually two reasons. One is the college requires it. And the other reason is I give you credit for attending. So 9% of your grade is attendance and participation. So if you Zoom in or you are in person, then that's a no-brainer. I just mark you down present. If you're web-based only, then you haven't signed in or turned in any work for 2 weeks, then those 4 days are counted absent. Okay. Let's see. Do I want to talk about this right now? I mentioned Respondus Monitor and Lockdown Browser, which are the proctoring solutions for exams. Prior to this, in Blackboard, you had to install Respondus Monitor and Lockdown Browser before you even did anything. That was a separate operation. But now I've noticed that in Brightspace, when you go and click on an exam to take an exam inside Brightspace, the software will ask you if you want to open Lockdown Browser first or install it. So if this is your first time, now's your chance to install it. And of course, you only have to do that once. Okay, here's the grading scheme. The exams that are based on the chapter materials are 57%. There's one final exam, which is basically twice the value of a chapter exam. Homework is worth 20%. You get credit for attending. And there's a syllabus test also, just to show me that you've actually read the syllabus, and that's worth 1% of your grade. So it's a big boost. The difference in the syllabus test is you don't need Brightspace, Lockdown Browser. You don't need the Respondus Monitor Lockdown Browser to take the syllabus test. Just go in and take it, just click on it, and it's a multiple choice and fill in the blank. Multiple choice, the system grades them right away, but they have to wait around for me to look at the fill in the blanks and assign a grade for those, and then they'll be posted to your grade book. We had to put this in here, administrative withdrawal procedure. Those are under extreme conditions, then the registrar will remove a student from the roster. But yeah, it has to be for usually non-attendance. So that's why I have to report attendance too, so that they can make that judgment call. Okay, here's the course schedule. All right, let's see. Let me go back up just a hair. There. Okay, you can zoom into the class from anywhere. If you have access to Brightspace, you can click on the link in Brightspace and call it up. Or you can, if you have Zoom installed on your device, and you can install it on your laptop, your desktop, or your smartphone. And when you open a session, it'll ask you for the ID. The identification number for that Zoom meeting is here. And then it'll ask you for a passcode. That's just so we can keep the riffraff out. And you'll enter the passcode, and then you can come in and enter Zoom from there. Okay, there's today. We're gonna do some more discussion, and I'm gonna try to keep this under an hour, so we'll have another hour to go for chapter 1. Then we're gonna cover chapter 1 today. There. And the next time we meet, Thursday, whether it's in person or if the college is closed again on Thursday and we're expecting another snowstorm, then I'll Zoom again, just like this. And we'll cover chapter 2. Chapter 1, I can squeeze it in because it's very short. Chapter 2 is a little more extensive, so we're going to need the whole time for that one. And sometimes I put important days in here that are not part of the class meeting. If it's grayed out, that means the class is not meeting that day. The last day to add or drop a course is the 24th, unless they extend it. And then on the following Tuesday, we'll have chapter 3, and those 3 chapters will be included on the first exam. And what we'll do is on the Thursday, 27th of January, we'll have a review session, take the whole class. And you may wonder, what are we going to talk about? And I'll show you in just a minute. I've got what I call review documents, and they're they're set up so that you can drill and test yourself on this material. They look exactly like a paper exam. And some of my students do that. They take them as if they were an exam, fill them out, and then they grade them themselves and try to figure out where they went wrong and work on the weak spots. So I'll talk about that a little more in a few minutes. The important stuff, the due dates, I've highlighted in yellow. So on February 1st, I need to see homeworks for chapter 1, 2, and 3 completed and exam 1 completed. And this is by, I can't use midnight, 11:59 that night. Also, the syllabus test is due then. Okay, so there are a lot of things due on that date, and you can do them before that date, right? You can even take the exam before that date if you want. But my students usually wait till we finish the review before they take the exam. So let's assume that on February 1st, the weather is good and I'm face-to-face in the classroom. Then at that time, anybody that shows up face-to-face, I'll give them the exam. If nobody shows up face-to-face, then I'll go ahead and do chapter 4 lecture. And then the following Thursday, I'll do chapter 5 lecture. And then we'll follow up. So this one doesn't mean anything. Monday, since we don't meet Monday, I just put it in there to remind you that Labor Day is a holiday. Oh, wait a minute. Labor Day? How'd that get in there? Labor Day's in the fall, isn't it?
I thought so.
Yeah, okay. I'll have to fix that. Let me write myself a note. And better than a note. I know what happened, but it's neither here nor there. I just need to fix it. I'll get my hard copy out and I'll circle the error and fix it. Okay, so forget that. Then we'll have another review session on chapters 4 and 5, and the following Thursday we'll have an exam, and the homework for those 2 chapters will be due. And I follow that pattern all the way down. Sometimes, for instance, here we only have 1 chapter, chapter 8. And usually the reason I only have 1 chapter is because there's a lot of difficult material in there, new stuff that might take a while to absorb. So I limit your exposure to 1 chapter in that case. For the next exam, chapter 6 and 7. So when you see it over here on the right, that means we're covering that material, new material that day. So I'll have an exam and then we'll follow up with that material. Let's see. Mid-semester grades are due on that day. So that means everything before then is averaged in to your mid-semester grade. If you have not completed everything up to that point, then I enter zeros for those items up to that point. But you can still complete them after that time, and then they will average into your final grade. Okay, I should have marked that one gray also, spring break, because we're not going to be here that week. So that's correct. That is spring break. And let's see, we'll follow that same pattern all the way down. If you choose, I don't encourage it, but if you choose to withdraw from the course, the 15th of April is your last day to do that. Let's see. And the final exam this is during the final exam week. I've got it set up for Tuesday, 10th of May. But since we meet on Tuesday and Thursday, I have to check the official calendar and see what the college is telling me to do with the class. When is the exam supposed to be given? Normally what I do, especially in my face-to-face classes, is if we've got meeting times set up through the whole semester, I try to have the exam during exam week, a final exam, at that exact same time on the day we meet. Because a lot of my students have work obligations, they may have childcare set up, and I don't think it's fair to change the timing on the final exam just to suit the college. I mean, if there are no conflicts, if there's a student that has a conflict, then I have to live with the college selection. But if there are no conflicts, then we have the exam, final exam, on the same time and the same day that we normally meet. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm going to let you read this stuff on your own. Bonus and extra credit. I have a couple of extra credit assignments. They won't be, I won't give those until the second exam, chapter 4 and chapter 5. They have to do with both of those chapters, and they're worth, together, those two are worth a half an exam. So there's substantial credit there. And I designed them to help you learn the material, right? It's not just a fluff. Those are the only two independent extra credit assignments that I've created. And everybody gets an equal chance at them. On exams, you will also notice that occasionally there'll be a bonus question. And that just means that you can try it or not. It doesn't matter. It won't cost you anything. The way I score exams on a percentage basis, like 100% is perfect. But you can get more than 100% if there are bonus questions in the exam. And the reason for that is maybe the total number of points that are available on the exam are, say, let's make something up, say 68 total points. Okay. And let's say you get all of them right. So that'll be 100%. But let's say there's some bonuses in there. And maybe you have 70 points. Then that'll give you greater than 100%. Okay. Makeup tests. I just take those as they come. If you're web-based or you're Zooming and going to take your tests using the system, Brightspace system with our Respondus monitor, then makeup testing is irrelevant. You can take it anytime you want to, even if you're late. It will tell me that you're late, but you can still take it. I don't shut it down. If you're face-to-face, then and you miss an exam, then you can always go into Respondus and Brightspace and take it online. So I won't be scheduling any face-to-face makeup exams. Your options are web-based. Here's some items that I always put in there for face-to-face exam etiquette. You can read those if you want. Let's see, Brightspace. Let's see. The only thing about Zooming a class or taking an exam with Respondus Monitor, which also videos you while you're taking it, is that you treat the exam or the Zoom session as if you're face-to-face. In other words, you wouldn't come to class in your pajamas and slippers, or you shouldn't be attending class laying on your bed or in your underwear. You know, just use common sense. Treat these sessions as if you were there in person, or if you're taking an exam, you're in person, somebody's watching you. Let's see. If you need to contact me outside of class, I mentioned that office hours, you can Zoom office hours. We can meet any other time. In fact, my schedule is also in Brightspace, and I'll show that to you. I have the office hours designated, but anytime I'm not in class, we can schedule a meeting and we can Zoom it, right? So you don't have to drive in bad weather. As long as I know, then we can use my personal Zoom account, and I can send you an invitation and you just click on it and we can meet. So basically office hours are there more for administration than they are for me and the students. Administration says I have to have 10 hours of office hours every week. So I do. But as far as the student's concerned, I'll meet you anytime up till 9 o'clock in the evening. I need to get to bed about 9 o'clock so I can, because I get up at 4:30. But we can meet anytime. And here's that's my personal Zoom ID. And I don't have a passcode with this one. So if you want to go in and set up your load Zoom onto your device, and I think I've got a link in Brightspace. When we go in there, I'll find it and show you where it is. Once you've got Zoom loaded on your device, then you can click up, open up, and you'll see a thing like this. And then you just say join, and it'll ask you for the ID, and then you can come on in the meeting. So you can do it from your smartphone too. Let's see, here we go. There's the connection. The Zoom US support download. So you can get the Zoom app right there. If it's on your smartphone, you probably have to go to the App Store, whether it's Android or iPhone, and get the app there. But if it's on your computer, you go to this link and you can download and install Zoom on your computer. Sometimes the thing about Word documents and other documents is sometimes you can click on these and it'll immediately open it up. And sometimes you have to hold down the control key and click. That's just a piece of advice in case it doesn't work for you. Hold down control and click it, see if it works. Okay, additional information. One thing I didn't include, and it's just become available, is recovery services. I call it for students that may be having trouble with substances. We now have a counseling service at the college, and I didn't have time to put it in the syllabus, but maybe what I can do is put a link in Brightspace, and you can always call student services and they'll connect you with, if you have problems yourself, or if you know someone who's having trouble and is a student at New River, then we have those services available. Okay, let's see. So here's Cengage OWL is the homework. And rather than go through here, these are explicit instructions, but it'd probably be more meaningful if we go into Brightspace and I show you this stuff in the environment. Let's see, that was one, appendix 2, attending Zoom meetings. Okay, you can read that. Let's see. And then I already showed you this one. Oh, there's one other one. Let me keep going. There's one other one down here that I just barely learned about it in time to get it in the syllabus. No, wait a minute. It's not the one I was expecting. Respondus monitor lockdown browser. If you have a Chromebook, Respondus might work. I think they were working on a way to get it to work, but problem with Chromebooks is they're what I call stupid computers. They cannot survive on their own. They have to have a web connection and use applications over the internet. They can't stand on their own with an internal hard drive that has everything in it, all your apps loaded. That's why they're so cheap. But I have enabled the test taking software to allow not just the desktops and laptops, but it'll also work for iPads if that's your preference. Let's see. And there are details here on, if you've never used Respondus Monitor Lockdown Browser, details are here, how to go in. And this is, if you install Respondus from this link, then when you get to the exam in Brightspace, you won't have to install it again. So you can do it that way also. But you have to go from this link because New River account is based upon that ID number. And if you don't go there, then you won't get the correct version installed. In fact, it probably won't let you install anything. Let's see. And you have to go through a series of things. When we get into Brightspace, let's just do that. Let me be sure I don't have any more information down here that needs to be expounded. There is a practice test, and I'll show you where that is. Using Respondus Monitor Lockdown Browser, the practice test is to check out your hardware, to be sure everything's working, right? Because the exams are timed. And if you go into the exam for the first time and it doesn't work well, then you're eating up your exam time. So we give you a practice test, and this confirms that all your system is compatible. Okay, there it is. You can put Brightspace on your smartphone. And the navigation is probably a little bit different, but I've been told that you can do everything on this, what they call Brightspace Pulse. That's their app. There it is, right there. You're supposed to be able to do everything on your smartphone that you could do with your laptop or desktop. I think it would be kind of hard to do some things, but a lot of the stuff you can do. Okay. So any questions so far? Any of my former students will tell you that if you don't interrupt me, I'll just keep right on talking. Okay, I'm going to stop that share. There we go. And I'm going to go share the, I think it's here. Yeah, this is my browser. So there we go. I can see. Let's see, where am I going? Nope, wrong school. Nope, wrong school. Here we go. So have you gotten this? You must have gotten this far on your own, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good. So I don't have to go through that. Okay. If you've been here, then you've probably looked around a little bit. I'll call your attention to this. I just added this yesterday. Barry Pine is paid by the college to tutor students in various subjects. And he will tutor for nothing, right? He's already paid a student in the physical sciences, I know. And this gives you this semester, this is his schedule. Any of these times you can just zoom in at this ID number right here, or you can call him, or you can contact him by email, okay, and get help on any subjects. If you can't get in touch with me, then Barry's available. And I have also made him a user in all of my courses, so that if you need to go into the course and look at something, then he can do it. You don't have to be there. I mean, you can be in your side and he can be in his side. You can look at the same thing. If you don't want to share screens, you can do it that way. And he can have access to all my materials. And that way I figure he can understand and get a better feel for what your problem is. Okay, so this is what's called the navigation bar. Well, let me start up here. This is the mini bar. And if you want to go back to Brightspace outside the courses, you click on this little house and it'll take you back to the main Brightspace page. And then of course, when you want to find your course, you can either scroll down or you can hit this waffle and find your course that way. We also have some messaging services here. These are alerts. These are probably, well, you have to be subscribed to certain things in the course in order to get alerts here. But then you have, let's see, updates here. I don't think I have any. Let me see. Well, yeah, I do. Okay, those are not important. All right. So right now we're looking at it from the instructor's point of view. And if I click on this gear wheel, I can make some changes here in my profile and information, and that's how I put my picture there. But if you're a student, let me see, I may or may not have, you also have profiles and account settings from the student side also. So let me see, if I look at it as a student, what does it give me? Okay, profile. And you can add some information about yourself there. That's okay. That's not really what I'm looking for. Account settings. Let's see, you can change the font size. You can change some of the video settings. Set your clock, date, time zone, signing in. There's some other things that if I were a student that I would have access to. And I believe, oh, discussions. That's not what I'm looking for. Ah, email, here we go. No, okay. I don't have access to the things that you do. I've seen it in account settings. What you can do is you can put in a different email address and a different phone number than your standard New River account phone number and email. If you would prefer to receive text messages on your cell phone, then you can put that number in there. And if I send out an alert here, it'll come through on that phone. That's probably more useful for other instructors. I tend not to do that. It's too complicated for me. I have too many settings that have to be made. So what I do is when I contact the class, I do so with email. So if you have your email client set up, like I do on my phone, I've got it set up so it will respond to 3 different emails, accounts. So I always get the messages. So if you want to contact anybody in the class, you just go to class list. That'll show you that everybody that's in the class right there, including your instructor. And if you want to send an email to everybody in the class, see, there's Barry Pine, right? He's in there as a user. You just select whichever ones you want or select all of them and say email. And then you can put in the message and send it out. That way you don't have to look through the whole phone book or email book for the school in order to find people you want to send it to as members of your class. Okay, and there's usually more than one way to get to these locations. This is how you get to it from the landing page. Assignments. Okay, here we have the 2 assignments that I was talking about earlier. Know the periodic table. I don't know why this was still there. That's nothing. This is the extra credit, and this is extra credit. Now, you can start working on it now if you want to, but I normally in face-to-face don't hand them out until chapters 3 and 4, 4 and 5, excuse me. And then from here, this will take you to the location in Brightspace where you would find that. And I can get there also another route. And I'm going to do that in just a second. Class progress, there's no class progress to be watched now, so we'll not spend time there. If you want to go back to the home page, the landing page for that course, just click that course home. There you are. There are some tools available. There's class list again. Surveys, there's one survey at the end of the course that the students need to take to assess how the course went for them, and various questions. It's anonymous, right? So nobody's going to come knocking on your door. Let's see, quizzes. I don't have any groups. Checklist, I'm not too sure about. This is a steep learning curve for all of us as instructors. So some of these things, I don't even know how to use them. Announcements. The only announcements that I do are these 2 right here, or any future announcements, they'll be right here on this landing page. But I generally don't use announcements too often. I know some instructors like to. Discussions, I don't have discussion groups. There's too much else to do to spend time on back and forth with discussions. Besides, grading them would be a excessive burden on the instructor. Okay, here's where you access your grades. And let's see. Okay, so we have exams. There's the practice test, right? And that doesn't enter into your final calculation, your final grade. It may show you a grade, but it doesn't affect your final grade. There's the syllabus test. Okay. Here are all the exams and the final. And then you also have access to Brightspace exams that are not proctored. There's no respondus lockdown for these. And you can use them to drill yourself on the material in that environment. So you get a feel. If you're going to take your exams online, then this will be a good place to get the feel for taking them that way. And I've broken them up into chapters and difficulties. Right, so you just go in and they'll grade for you, and they'll show you which ones you got wrong, so you can concentrate on those. But you can take them as many times as you want to, unlimited. I think it'll show you the last grade here, right? But that grade does not enter into your calculation. It has no impact on your final grade at all. Here's your homework, right? These graded things yet do go into your final calculation. And what I've done is, once you go into Cengage OWL, once you get in there, then you can move around and look at other stuff. And when you're looking at other products or potential testing services, the only ones that count for your grade will say graded next to them. If they don't say graded, then you can go in there and do whatever you want to with them, and I'll never see the results. I only see these, the graded ones, and they're marked that way for that purpose. Mastery is a certain type of test. It was the only one available for chapter 1. That's the only reason I'm using it. The rest of them are EOCs, which stands for end of chapter. So these are based upon the question sets that are at the end of each chapter. And I've selected from those. Okay, I'm not sure what these other things are. I need to get rid of some of them because they can be confusing if they're not supposed to be there. And that's just the results of my inexperience with Brightspace. Okay. So here you can access your quizzes. There we go. Right. These are all reviews. Like I said, they won't affect your grade. And then these are the important ones right here. Okay. There's a final review also, a practice test. Okay. So now the content of the course is through this doorway. Content. Okay. And if we click on table of contents, that collapses everything. And if it doesn't, you can hit collapse all. Okay. On the left-hand side, you may see some things like Zoom. So you can access the Zoom classes from here. You can get to your homework from here. I'll show you that in just a second. Office hours are shown here. Let's see, various other information. This will be a good place to put that contact information for the recovery services. Let me see if it's even, they may have put it in there already. Tutoring, advising, no, okay. Contact numbers, important phone numbers. Okay. So that's not everything that you need to know. Notice also that sometimes they have breadcrumbs at the top, so you can back out through there. And also pay attention to these little icons here underneath each of the items. That tells you what they are. This takes you to a web page. Let's go to start here. This is where all the resources reside. Start here. So this opens up here. It also opens up on the right-hand side. I put together a little course tour. You may have already seen it. That was made kind of several weeks ago, and I've learned a lot since then. So the course tour is sort of a rudimentary, but I knew I needed to get one in there, so I went ahead and put that the best I could at the time. Here's where you find your syllabus and also my schedule. So if I click on this one, this will show you my schedule. Okay. Let's see, there we go. So here has my office hours and the link to join me for office hours. And these are the office hour times in that dark red. And notice that the only course that I have face-to-face at New River is CHEM100. And it's a hybrid. Actually, I think the proper term for it is called high flex. It's flexible and it's very flexible. So these are the times that we'll be meeting for that. And all my other courses are virtual. Okay, so let's go back through the breadcrumbs. There's the syllabus. Okay. And notice that these are PDF documents. They're identified there. So if I click on the syllabus, it'll pop it up here. but you may want a hard copy. So let's see, download right here. You can get a copy of it. Printing, I'm not sure about Brightspace, whether printing from within Brightspace works very well. Printing from within a browser sometimes doesn't work too well. So I generally go for the download and then I print it from the app. In this case, it would be a Adobe Acrobat. And I assume, do you already have a Acrobat reader on your computer?
I do.
Good deal. So we won't have to stop for that one. I've got a link in here that shows students how to get to, let's see, where is it? It's under here. Free PDF readers, right? So that's where I would direct the students to go and get a copy, because everything I deliver is in PDF format, and this is the best way to do it. In fact, some of the things that I give you, and I'll show you how that is, I have the full version of Adobe Acrobat, the professional version. So I can take a document and create a form where you have fillable places in it to fill in answers. And I can save that in such a way that you can pull it up on your reader and you can fill in those answers, and then you can save it. Normally, if you fill a form in a reader, you've got to screenshot it or print it because it won't save the work. But I've been able to figure that one out. Okay, course schedule and due dates, there they are here. So you don't have to go looking in the, I got to fix that, Labor Day. You don't have to go looking in the syllabus to find that information. Okay, here we go. All right, what else should I point out? Let's see. Getting started with Cengage, I think, has web links that walk you through various things about OWL that you might need. Particularly, it's one called CHEM100. When you get into the homework, sometimes you have to answer questions with formulas, compound formulas, and CHEM100 or structures sometimes. We won't have that much. We won't focus on structures in this class, because this is an introductory class. But my general chemistry students may have to give me structures, and CHEM100 is the way you do it within the homework. Okay, so let me see. There's installation of Lockdown Browser. Practice test for your Respondus monitor. That's where you find it here. This is your syllabus test, right? You don't need Lockdown for this one. And then the modules. So each one of these modules represents an exam. So module 1 will have all the information in it for chapters 1, 2, and 3. And we'll look at that in just a minute. I want to get the homework out of the way first. So you need to register for your homework. All right, so click on this homework tab over here. There we go. And if you click on this, it will take you out to the learning tool, Cengage OWL. Before we do that, I'll point out this information down here. This is specific for spring semester. If you need help with anything pertaining to Cengage, at least for the first month, I think these office hours are set up by Cengage with experts that will help you solve any problems. And it started on January 4th, and it's going to run through February 18th. At these times, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 12 noon to 2 o'clock, Tuesday, Thursday from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And there'll be somebody there that can help you solve your problems if you're having trouble registering, or if there's a glitch in the homework system. And there are other resources here outside those office hours that you can call that number or connect support. That takes a little more time. I find that if you really have a problem and you can't get anybody through support, contact Dee Frederick. She's the account executive, the representative. And if she can't fix it for you on the spot, she will put a burr in somebody's saddle and they'll get it done. So Dee's an excellent resource for anything Cengage. All right, so for your first time, you just go in and click on this. And Cengage, let's see, open Cengage content, there we go, signing in. So now you need to sign in with your email, right? For me, I'll type in, no, wrong address. I need my New River address. There we go. And then my password. Okay, so it saved my password from a previous one, so I don't have to put it in. There we go. So I should be able to sign in. Uh-oh, it didn't like that. It must have been an old password, so let me see. Oh, didn't like that password either. Hold on a second. Your Cengage registration is not complete. Oh, okay. It knows I'm not a student. And so it's not going to let me go through the process. But as a student, when you do that, it'll take you to a registration page and you fill in the information. When you bought your Cengage Unlimited, they should have sent you in an email a number or a code of some kind. Did that come through?
I believe so.
Okay, don't lose it because they may ask you for it when you try to register. Okay, so I guess we'll have to go back. And I won't be able to get into it until I revert to instructor mode. And it's going to look a little bit different. I think also, you know, now that I remember, I think I can go into Cengage as an instructor and then use the student view once I'm in there. So let me try that. Let me turn off the student view here and go back into the course. See, I'm taking a lot more time than I should. Let's see, homework. All right, I'm going to show you. This is where you can go into Cengage homework from here every time if you want. But if you do, you've got to know which chapter you're looking for. If you go in through start here and then scroll down to the module, right? Say we're doing chapters 1, 2, and 3. Then you can go down here and let's see. Here we go, module 1 homework. And here are the connections, here are the links, and they'll take you straight to that particular chapter homework through these links, okay? So if I were to go in here like this, see, I'm instructor now, so I can go connect that one. Okay, I didn't expect that. Maybe it's loading. Okay, so this is what the instructor sees. Let's see, can I change to student view? Tools, training. No, not yet. Start assignment now. This may be the way it looks. Okay. So you have questions that you have to answer. This is a mastery version, and I've got a section in the syllabus talking about how to do the masteries. You only have to do this one for the one chapter, and the rest of them are end of chapter questions. So this one's a little bit different, and the reason I don't like it, I was forced to use it for chapter 1 because that's the only one available. Unfortunately, it's very short. It's just a couple of questions. So question 1 is a generalization that summarizes observed behavior based on many related observations made over a long period of time. That's a law. Okay, submit that answer. Correct. Okay. The second question. The results of an unsuccessful test of an hypothesis should be discarded, true or false? No, you never throw away information, no, even if it's not what you expect, right? So there, okay, I'll tell you, if I get it wrong, and probably I should do one wrong just to see what it does. A law is based on observations and need have no explanation. That's true, so I'm going to say false. Okay, an error has been detected. All right, how about it? This one? Okay, it likes that one. Sometimes it gives you hints and sometimes it doesn't. So then once you finish submitting all your answers, then you go finish assignment and submit for grading. And it told me that I scored 50% on this assignment. You should be able to also go into the grade book here and see the rest of your grades. As an instructor, I'm going to see everybody's grades, right? So fortunately, nobody's taken it yet, so you don't see any personal information that's sensitive. Another feature that's good about this is it's not here. I need to go back to assignments. Let's say I want to go to chapter 2, right? Notice that you have all these different ones here. I think you'll be able to see those also. The only ones that give you a score that's important are the graded ones. So if I do this one, let's see. Oh, preview as a student. Here's where it is. Okay, as a student, start assignment. Okay, here are all your questions and just answer them there. Now, if you run into a problem here and you need to contact me about a specific question, then you go down here to email instructor, right? And then type in your whatever your problem is, put a subject in here. And what it does is it sends me an email, plus it tells me which problem it was. So I don't have to search around, and it makes communication better. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this now because I'm running out of time. Let's see, I'm going to close that and go back to, let's go back to module 1. Here we go. Okay, so we've got 3 chapters covered here. And this one is a periodic table, right? You need to keep a copy of a periodic table with you at all times. You can expand this one to show objectives for the course, but that's for your personal enjoyment. The PowerPoint slides, I give them to you in 3 different versions. If you have Microsoft Office, then you can open the PowerPoint slides from here. You may have to download them and open them. If you don't have access to your PowerPoint, then you can look at them as a PDF file. The disadvantage there is none of the movies, none of the videos, none of the animations that may be embedded in the PowerPoint will show there, just the PDF. If, however, you want the animations and any of the movies that may be embedded, you can go to this one, which is written in HTML5, which means it will load in your browser. Let's just click on it and see what it does. Okay. All right, there it is. Now you can click through it. Right? You can go through the slides one at a time. You can probably click in the slide and it should go. Yep. Right. And this is the one I'm going to be using in just a few minutes. That way, all you need is a browser, and you can look at the slides that way. Okay, I'm going to go back and let's see. Let's go back to module 1. There are the slides. Module 2 slides. Module 3 slides. Same. Let's go back to module 1. And I'll call your attention here. We're recording all of this in Zoom, and I'm going to process that recording and upload it to YouTube. And then I put a link in the course. That's what this thing means. It means link. So when you click on this, it goes out to YouTube, and you can watch the video for that day activity. In this case, Chapter 1 Introduction, the lecture on this date. So this is the previous semester. And you can go look at it if you want to. Sometimes I explain it better one semester than I do another semester. But I will put the current one in there within 2 or 3 days. It depends on my workload and what I'm doing, how well the video cooperates with me. And I do that for each chapter. So here's chapter 2. And here's 3, and for this one, I covered chapter 2 and 3 together on that same day. I don't know why, it just went that way. Okay, now how do you review for an exam? There are 2 ways. You can use those, let's see, well, I don't see them. I'll find them in a second. Review documents. So for exam 1, I've got the review document in a form, PDF form. That means it has fillable spaces in it. And then there's the key. So that's got all the answers. So you can check yourself. If you can't figure out how you got one wrong and how to fix it, that's what this document is for, worked problems. So each one of these questions is worked out in longhand. I try to write legibly. Let's see. We're an instructor, so you won't see this one. See that little eyeball with a line through it? That means the student can't see these. All right, so ignore those. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. So I was looking for practice tests. Here we go, practice tests. So for exam 1, practice test here. No, that's exam 1, practice test. Here we go. Okay, here we go. See, that's the thing I don't like about this. I'll stop grumbling. So here, you saw these earlier. Here's how you get to those quizzes. So you just click on one of these and opens up immediately. And, well, okay, that's a problem. As an instructor, I can't run the exam. Let's see if it'll let me preview it. Okay, here it is. This is what you will see. All right, so you can go down here and start quiz. And then it'll take you through the quiz and grade it. And then it'll show you which ones you got wrong. And it may even show you the right answers. I think I set it up that way. So that's how you can review for online examinations. The review document was designed originally for face-to-face meetings, and has some good stuff in it. And if you can do the, let's see, where did I put it? Review document. If you can take this review document and work it through with no problems, then you should do fine on the exam too. Okay, I'm going to stop this share for now and show you what those documents look like. Let's see, where are they? Share. Here we go. Here's a good one right here. Okay. So if you take the exam, if you were taking it face-to-face, this is what you would see, this format, right? Multiple choice, and you can fill in your answers here. And the way you have to download the document and open it on your computer. You can't work it correctly within the browser, right? If it pops up in the browser, then don't do anything with it, but download it. And then notice also that we've got all these exams, and there are a lot more questions here than you'll see on an exam, right? This is just to drill you. I always tell my students, you have two best friends in this chemistry class. One is curiosity. If you're always curious about why something happens and want to know more about it, that's good. And the other best friend is boredom. If you work so many problems of these types that you're bored doing them, that means you probably know them pretty well. So let me go down to the end and show you useful information. Here we go. This is the first exam, so there's not a whole lot. Useful information. This information is included on every exam. Now, when you take the web-based exams, these are separate documents, the useful information. And I'll show you where that is in a minute. But if it's here in the review document, it will be available for the exam. Okay, so that's what the exam looks like. And then the key that's in there will have the answers in it, so you can check yourself. And then the other one I wanted to share was this handwritten version, worked problems. All right. So I took each one of the questions and I worked them out longhand to show you how I got the answers. This is not the only way. For some of them, it's not the only way to get the answer, but it's one way. All right, so that's should be the same number there as in the review document. Okay, so we'll stop that share. And let's see, what else did I want to show? Let's go back to the, oh, also, you've probably figured out by now that I'm long-winded. So, especially in classes, when we're face-to-face, and I'm always recording classes, whether they're face-to-face or Zoomed. I record them in Zoom, whether I have to or not. And then I reprocess the video and post it so that you can come back later and look at it. Or if you miss class and you can see it, you may lose that point for attendance, but you still have access to the material. And oh, by the way, in the schedule, when it says on that day we're going to do a review, we use that review document usually to review topics for the exam. Sometimes, though, I do go into the sample problems that are in those review tests, the practice tests, and I have been known to go in also to Cengage and use those problems. So it could be a mix. I'm not going to hog tie myself to one or the other right now. Okay, so if I go back in and let's see, share, I'm gonna go back to my browser. Let's see, here it is. There we go. Okay, we've covered that stuff. Homework, practice tests, exams. Here we go. So when you get to the exam, you'll notice that within this, let's see, that's expanded now. Shrink, expand. There's your connection for the exam. And here's the useful information. So I'm not sure with Brightspace, but I know with Blackboard, once you get into Lockdown Browser, you don't have access to this file. So just to be safe, before you actually start the test, click on this one and print a copy, download it. You can try printing it from here. It might work. Or you can download a copy and keep a copy with you. That's legal. You can have this useful information with you during the exam. Now, I don't give you new useful information pages for every exam. I just add on to them because chemistry is a cumulative science. In other words, it builds on itself. So the stuff you're learning now, you'll need later on down the line. So the useful information pages are accumulated and they'll get bigger and bigger. So print that out and then go into the exam. And let's see, let me preview it, see if that'll help. Okay, so this is what you should see, instructions. Then here's the place where you would download and install the latest version of Lockdown Browser, if you don't already have it. If you do, then you can launch Lockdown Browser, and it should make sure you have the latest version. Okay, so it probably wants me to install the latest version. Or it could be because I'm doing a preview, it's not going to work right. Okay, so that's what your exams look like. Let's go back to module 1. And every module is set up exactly the same, just like this. You'll have previous semester videos in there, and then if it'll have a link for new videos, and it won't say previous semester, right? And it'll have the date, so you know which one is the right one. I should say not which one is the right one, but which one is the most recent video. Okay. If you work, let's see, do I have these? Yeah, they're visible. These are end of chapter problem solutions, right? I just left them in there. All this stuff was ported over from Blackboard. So I've had to go in, thankfully, and just make sure it's all there in the right format and hide some stuff that doesn't need to be seen. Okay, so let's see. There's the end of term course evaluation. So when you get ready to do that, you just click on that and it's anonymous, and that gives us an idea of how well we're doing. Okay, any questions? I got a half hour. I think I can get through the slides on chapter 1 in a half hour. I'm going to stop this share. Okay. And now I'm going to share the PowerPoint slides. Here we go. There's PowerPoint. And let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to make a slideshow. There we go. Okay. So assume you can see this because sharing has worked up to this point. You'll notice the appearance of this textbook is not the same as the one you'll see your electronic textbook. It's an earlier edition. I've created these slides and over the years have modified them, and I don't have the time or the energy to go back and take the latest slides and remodify them. So all the information is good. It just looks a little ancient. All right. So everybody recognize that fellow, Grumpy Cat? He has since passed on and left his millions behind for his owners. Okay, so in this first exam, we're going to have these 3 chapters. We have an introduction, which is just basic stuff. Then we'll talk about how measurements and calculations are done in chemistry and in sciences in general. And then we're going to start looking at the real stuff of chemistry, matter. What is stuff made of? And that'll be chapter 3. And then all those 3 chapters will be included in the first exam. Okay. All right. I've always got a table of contents at the beginning. These are the topics that we're going to be covering. So the question that always comes to mind for me is when somebody wants me to learn something new, my first question is the same it would be for a 2-year-old. Why? Why do you want me to learn this stuff? Why is chemistry important? Well, chemistry, the study of chemistry, at least in the modern times, is responsible for the creation of new materials. In other words, materials that we don't see in nature. Up to the time, chemistry's been part of man's history forever. I mean, you go back to the creation of fire. Fire is the expression of a chemical reaction. But we were limited for thousands of years. If we wanted to make something new, we had to use natural materials and reshape them. Okay. Build our houses out of mud bricks or what have you. Make plows, right? We would have the wood for the structure, and then we would have, in the beginning, the plow head was wood too, so they didn't last very long, and they couldn't cut through hard soil. But as man learned about the world around him, he figured out, first by trial and error, how to shape his world. And some of the first things that he shaped was he was able to take minerals and extract pure metals from them. Copper, actually, copper was found in certain places as a pure metal. Right? He didn't have to smelt the ore. But if you wanted to make things out of iron, you could find some iron around, but it was, well, not too common. But the iron minerals, he learned, could be heated up to very high temperatures and blow oxygen into them, blow air into them, and you could eventually convert them into pure iron and start making utensils out of them. That's chemistry. In modern times, much of the chemistry that's done is organic. This desk that is in front of me is made of wood, right? That's a natural material. But the computer, the case, for instance, that holds the computer parts is made of plastic. That is a material that's completely synthetic. We make it from one material and we convert it into a new material that has never existed on the earth before. I don't know, when I was growing up, the kitchen table was made out of metal as a structure, and the surface was something called formica. Formica is a polymer. In other words, it's an organic compound that is designed to be a good surface that is low porosity. So when you spill something on it, it doesn't soak in. And it's durable. So you can have 2 or 3 year olds sitting at the, with their forks and spoons banging on the table and it won't damage it. Well, we've progressed from there with new materials. Actually, new materials includes drugs. Right? The same sort of thing happened over time. Certain people in human history had a knowledge of natural materials, and they could treat certain maladies with the leaves of this or the fruit from that or the roots from this. But now we make completely new compounds that are not seen anywhere on the earth to treat certain types of diseases and ailments. And that's all due to chemistry. New energy sources. All right, for the longest time, the only thing we had to burn to produce heat was either wood or animal droppings. Dried dung is used still in third world countries. Many people use dried dung to cook their food. But our energy sources now, many of them are due to what we've learned about them in terms of chemistry. Fossil fuels, they call them. Okay, food supply. Part in the late 50s and into the mid 60s, even into the 1970s, the food supply for the earth just shot up dramatically for 2 reasons. One is plant breeders produced crops that were hardier. They could stand up to adverse environmental conditions like salty soils, stormy weather that would blow your crop over. So they made short stature grains that would stand up in high winds. It wouldn't flop over and your grains rot, and would produce more usable product for each plant. That's where the breeders come in. But along with that, they needed chemistry in the form of fertilizers. In other words, supplementing the necessary food that the plant would need to grow. And this could be extended to animal husbandry as well, but I'm focusing on plants right now. But our food supply expanded because of those 2 things, the plant breeders and the agricultural chemists who produce the right fertilizers. And now we can support a population of, let's see, last count was what? I don't know, 6.5 billion people on Earth. And chemistry can also help the environment. Very often on an industrial scale, chemical processes produce waste products. That is, things that are not marketable. That is, the company that produces one product produces a waste that they can't get any, nobody wants to buy it. So it becomes waste and they have to do something with it. Well, prior to the 20th century, you just dumped it in the water, dumped it in a hole in the ground, whatever. And over time, that created some pretty nasty environmental hazards. What chemistry has allowed us to do is to take those byproducts and turn them into something that's marketable, something that people want to buy, and that's no longer waste. The flip side of that coin is chemistry can be used to remediate environmental damage as well. And we don't have time to go into a lot of detail right now, but suffice to say that chemistry can create the problem and it can fix the problem. If you can think of others, sound off. If not, I'll keep going and try to finish this before we run out of time. I will say that particularly in my face-to-face classes, if students are on a strict schedule and they've either got to get to another class at the end of mine, or they have work obligations or anything else, then I tell them, if you got to go and we're not finished with the class, time's up, you got to go. And I'll just keep recording. Then you can come back and finish watching the recording later. Okay, we're going to learn basic principles of chemistry. There are not that many of them. Learn how to solve problems. That's really the key to any of the physical sciences. Learn how to solve problems. That's where you really learn, in this case, learn chemistry. Solve chemical problems. Then it starts to become more intuitive, thinking about the world in terms of chemistry, if you can solve problems. Okay, in its simplest definition, chemistry is the science of substances and how they change from one to another. Materials here of the universe and changes the materials undergo. That's a valid definition. It's often called the central science. And it's only called central science because so many others feed into it. The biological sciences, pure physical sciences feed into chemistry. And it's sort of a clearinghouse for all of these. So when we talk about chemistry this semester, we may have to discuss non-chemical processes, like what happens when you squeeze a gas. Well, maybe a chemical reaction occurs and maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just a physical process. And you may often hear it said, chemistry is just applied physics. That's what a physicist would say. And a chemist would say, actually, I left that one out. A chemist would say that biology is just applied chemistry. Okay. How do you solve problems? Now, this can work for non-chemistry applications too. First thing is, what's the question? What is the problem? You got to identify the problem before you can solve it. It needs to be stated clearly. What is it? So in terms of an exam question, you look at it and you read it and you say, what is this question actually asking? Sometimes you have to read it backwards. The real meat of the question, the problem, is at the bottom. And work your way backwards. And as is so often the case, test questions are very often meant to confuse. Now, that's not a bad thing. It's a necessary thing, because if the student doesn't understand the subject matter, then it's very easy to confuse and miss the question. If you understand the material very thoroughly, then none of that blue smoke that appears in a question will deter you from finding the answer. So the first thing is to look at the problem and say, what is the question? What needs to be solved? You may make an observation, right? Then you, and this is the scientific approach. I've couched it in terms of exam questions, but now we need to broaden it. When you're looking at problems in the natural world, and you want to take a scientific approach, there are some steps, general outlines of how the problem is approached. The first one is, what is the problem? In other words, you see something that you're curious about, right? That first friend, curiosity. You make an observation. You say, this is happening. And naturally, you want to say, how come it's happening? Why is it happening? And then you go to, in the scientific method is what we're talking about. You look at your experiences, maybe things you've seen in the past, problems you've solved in the past, problems that others have solved, right? You may have to research the literature and see if this has ever been seen before, and say, all right, I propose that this happens because of this. And whenever you have this situation, it always leads to that. That in scientific terms is called a hypothesis. You're saying, this is what you think is happening. An explanation for your observation. That's a hypothesis. And then you need to find a way, and you don't have to have just one hypothesis. You can have several, right? You're saying, well, maybe this is the reason, maybe that's the reason, maybe that's the reason. And in the scientific method, you perform an experiment. In other words, you control the situation. You create the situation that will hopefully produce the same result that you observed. That's called an experiment. If you don't get the results you expect, that's not bad. It's like Thomas Edison, right? The inventor of the light bulb. A reporter asked him one time, how does it feel, Mr. Edison, to have failed 99 times to produce a light bulb? And he says, I didn't fail. I just found 99 ways that you can't make a light bulb. I only needed to find one way to make a light bulb. So negative results are not bad. They can tell you something about the system that you're investigating and lead you toward a better explanation for what's happening. Now, the beauty of this approach, the scientific approach, is that you can use this type of thinking in all parts of your life. When you make an observation, you probably already do it. You see something happening and you say, I bet it's happening because of this. Now, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just your expression of a prejudice. But in the scientific method, we try to approach every hypothesis without prejudice. In other words, every hypothesis is equally valuable. Now, some of them prove to be wrong. In fact, most hypotheses prove to be wrong. It's the ones that prove to be right that help science to advance. Okay, so in short, when somebody says science and they understand what it really means, science is a framework for both gaining knowledge and organizing that knowledge. So in the popular media, when you hear somebody say, well, that's unscientific, or science says this, this, and this, more often than not, they're expressing a preconceived notion, a prejudice, and they're only using science to justify their mistake. So whenever somebody in the media says science, be very wary of their conclusions. Very often, their conclusions are political in nature and not scientific. The one that bothers me the most is when somebody says, well, I'll use an example. The world is heating up because of human activity, right? Man-caused global warming, right? And I say, where's your evidence? And they give me this little bits of information and this little bits of information. I said that I'm not convinced. You know, I've got sufficient evidence to go the other direction, to say man doesn't cause global warming. So last resort, they might say something like, well, most scientists agree, blah, blah, blah. In other words, they're saying it is settled science that man is causing climate change. Okay. Red lights go off, flashing alarms. Whenever somebody says settled and science in the same sentence, they don't know what they're talking about. Science is never settled. Science is always open to discussion, investigation, verification by others. If it's not, then it's not science. So science is never settled. Okay. So science in its most rudimentary form is a plan of action, a procedure that has been developed over several centuries to help us gain and organize knowledge. Now, it may take different forms depending on the question, right? Biological questions might require one approach. Physical questions might require another approach. Chemical questions may need a different approach. Or if you're looking at prehistoric processes and you're trying to find evidence for them, you're trying to explain them, those are the most difficult because you cannot test them in what we would consider normal experimental procedures. So you need alternate forms, but it's all a plan of action, trying to find out, to gain knowledge and then to make some sense of the knowledge. Here we go. Scientists are always challenging our current beliefs about science. There was a time when most scientists in the world believed that living systems could be generated by non-living, just spontaneous. They call it spontaneous generation. Like you leave a moldy sock, an old sock in a drawer, and before long you've got bugs crawling around on it. And they believe that the bugs came from the sock. Well, no. It took science a while to dispel that error. All right. Scientific method. Okay, so the scientific method, and I've only got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to run out of time. And if you have to leave, that's fine. I'll just keep going until I'm finished. The scientific method, in general, is organized around that previous description of the process. Right? Let's see, let me go back. Let's see. There we go. Let's focus on this green section first. This is at its most rudimentary form. The scientific method starts with an observation. And curiosity is the beginning of all good scientific investigations. And you form a hypothesis, an explanation, then you experiment. Find some way to determine whether this hypothesis is right or wrong, or decide which is the best among several hypotheses. And you just keep doing that because the experiment may be wrong, and you make more observations and form different hypotheses, and you just keep going in that cycle. And usually what happens is you're able to, if you're astute enough, able to devise an explanation for a natural process. Right? If these are the conditions at the beginning, then you will always get these results. If that's the case, then you're actually stating a law. So I like to use Newton, Isaac Newton. His first law of motion. So his first law of motion says that an object in motion tends to remain in motion in a straight line unless it's acted upon by an external force. Okay? Or an object at rest will stay at rest unless it is acted on by an external force. Right? That just says what it is, what happens. It has nothing, it says nothing about why. It just says this is what happens. And it has stood the test of time within the Newtonian framework. Or his second law. This is just a descriptive law, whereas this law is written as a formula. In other words, the value of that force is equated to the mass of the force times the acceleration it is undergoing, right? So we have to know what is acceleration, right? Velocity is distance traveled in a certain amount of time, right? Like speed. So velocity will give you, in units, meters per second. It'll travel so many meters in so many seconds. And that's constant velocity. It doesn't change. It's moving that speed, doesn't change. If, however, it changes by slowing down or speeding up, and its speed gets faster, over a certain period of time, it may speed up. That's acceleration. And that's a change in velocity. That's what that delta means. Delta means change. Change in velocity over a certain period of time. So that's what Newton says here. Mass times acceleration is produced as a consequence of that force. Okay, that's a law. It doesn't say why. It just says it happens. And it happens every time exactly the same way. Okay, so that gives us a law. Usually what happens is, over time, laws accumulate. And eventually someone proposes an explanation for why those laws work. In that case, they are proposing a theory. A theory always includes a why. Why does it happen? And very often, the theory will include what we call a model. Now, the model can take several forms. It can be something that looks like an automobile model or an airplane model or a dollhouse model, whatever, that you can look at and make slight changes to it and see what effect that has on the expression of the law. Once we have a theory to go on, then the world kind of opens up, because if you think in terms of why, then you can make changes to the conditions that you wouldn't normally think of. And once you make those changes, you can make a prediction, all right? How will the theory respond to those changes? That's the different, one of the differences between theory and law. The theory can be changed in order to make predictions, whereas the law is really chiseled in stone. It only works a certain way and no changes allowed. Okay, once you make that prediction, then you conduct an experiment to see if the prediction was right. And these predictions may include certain aspects of this green square up here. Right? So the experiment may include hypotheses that you're testing. And then you see the results. And the results will tell you how to modify the theory to make it fit the real world, right? I always tell my students, nature just does what it does, right? It's been doing it for at least thousands of years. And in some circles, you may say millions and billions of years, right? Nature just does what it does. What we're trying to do is explain what it's doing in terms of laws and theories, right? So don't think of a theory as controlling nature. Nature controls the theory. All right. So the law summarizes what happens. Hypothesis is a possible explanation for an observation. And a theory, including its model, is an attempt to explain why it happens. Okay. All right, since I'm short on time and my students are gone, I'm going to skip this one. Right, and the one thing that's missing, you can go back and read this in the time you have, just pause it and read it. Which one is missing from this scenario? There were no experiments performed. It's simple. You don't perform experiments, then you cannot say the hypothesis is true or false. All right, chemistry is like a new language. You got to learn the vocabulary, right? How do you build words and sentences in chemistry? And I don't mean English or French or German or whatever other language. I'm talking about the language, the vocabulary that allows you to describe a chemical process, right? And to do that, we need to understand what the world is made of. What is nature composed of? And that's elements, right? We have symbols for each one of those elements in terms of a periodic table. And we'll work on those in the coming weeks. Some things you just have to memorize. Like the symbols for the elements, you must memorize. And we'll talk about that when the time comes, and I'll show you which ones I want you to memorize. I've got a periodic chart that's identified for the ones I want you to memorize. You don't have to memorize all of them, right? There are 118 elements in the periodic table. And I only want you to memorize maybe 60 of them. And it's not that difficult, but it has to be done. And then there's, along the way, there are other things that have to be memorized. But if you don't commit them to memory, then you can't access that information to solve problems, right? So you have to memorize. That's no way around it. Then in order to learn how to solve problems, you need to practice and practice and practice. That's where boredom comes in. If you're not bored working a certain type of problem, then you haven't done enough of them. Take advantage of your mistakes. Mistakes are a learning opportunity. I can remember things back in grade school and high school that I got wrong on tests. And I never forgot them after that. One that comes to mind on a history exam. The question was, what was the method of warfare used by the Nazis during World War II? It's the Blitzkrieg. I got it wrong on the test. I couldn't remember the answer, but I have never forgotten it because it was a learning experience. And always ask questions. Right? Ask questions of yourself, ask questions of nature, ask questions of your instructor. I'm here to help you learn this stuff and to make sense of the world. Work as many problems as you can. And the more problems you work, the easier the exams will be. That is guaranteed. If you work problems and you get the right answers, then when the test rolls around, it'll be a piece of cake. All right. So that's it for chapter 1. Next time we meet, 2 days from now, we'll talk about the second chapter, which will be measurements. How we conduct experiments by measuring things, and then the calculations that we can do. And actually we propose some rules that help us stay honest. Right? One thing, scientists should be honest just from within, right? They're honest nature. But the community has been organized, the scientific community is organized so that if you publish your work, then anyone else is free to take your work and reproduce it in the laboratory, wherever the space is. And if they can't reproduce it, then you better be able to explain why, or they better be able to explain why it didn't work for them. Right? That's called peer review. In other words, your peers are always checking on you to see if you're doing it right, if you're doing it honestly, if you can back up your claims. Okay, so that's it for today. And let's see, I'm going to end the meeting because there's nobody here to ask questions. We're done for today.